Hey, welcome to our explainer. You know that feeling, right? When you finish a book or a movie and it just sticks with you for days, even weeks? Well, today we're cracking open the playbook. We're going to look at the actual nuts and bolts techniques that the world's best storytellers use to build these worlds that last.
So that really is the big question, isn't it? What makes a story unforgettable? Is it just some kind of magic that a few lucky people are born with? Or is there a blueprint, something anyone can learn and follow? Well, the answer is a big, resounding yes, and we're about to walk you through it.
You see, here's the secret. Great stories aren't born, they are built intentionally, piece by piece. So we're going to break down that building process into three main parts. First up, we've got the skeleton. That's the core foundation that gives the story its shape. Then we'll add the muscles. That's what gives it power and life. And finally, we'll talk about the daily workout, the training that keeps a writer sharp. All right, let's start with the bones, the story skeleton. Look, every single compelling story, whether it's an ancient myth or the latest blockbuster, is built on a solid skeleton. Without it, the whole thing just collapses. It becomes, just a pile of stuff that happens. And it all kicks off with one simple, powerful thing: desire. The masters, people like Anton Chekhov, they knew this. Your character has to want something, and they have to want it badly. I mean, if they're just passively wandering around, why should we care? Their goal, their desire, that's the engine that drives the whole story forward.
But of course, just wanting something isn't a story. Aaron Sorkin absolutely nails it here. Something has to get in the way, and that, my friends, is conflict. The tension between what your character wants and what's stopping them from getting it, that is the beating heart of all drama, period.
So you've got desire and you've got conflict. How do you organize all that? That's where structure comes in. Now, don't think of it as some rigid, boring formula. Think of it more like a map for the audience that builds tension and, crucially, makes sure we don't get lost, especially in what screenwriters call the sagging second act.
And maybe the most famous structure of all is the hero's journey. Christopher Vogler really popularized it based on Joseph Campbell's work, and once you see it everywhere. From Star Wars with Luke Skywalker to The Wizard of Oz with Dorothy, it's so universal. You start in an ordinary world, then a call to adventure yanks the hero out. They cross a threshold into some strange new world, face all these tests, and then eventually return home, but they're not the same person. It's a timeless skeleton for a very, very good reason.
Okay, so we've got a strong skeleton in place. Now it's time to add the muscle. These are the tools of the trade, the things that give a story its power, its texture, the stuff that makes the blueprint feel like a living, breathing thing. I love this idea from the cognitive scientist Steven Pinker. He talks about something called classic style. And the whole idea is that your writing, your prose, should be like a clean window. The point isn't to show off how smart you are with fancy words. No. The goal is to make the window so clear that the reader can see exactly what you're seeing without any distractions. And this leads us to maybe the most famous rule in all of storytelling: show, don't tell. And it's famous for a reason. It works. I mean, look at this. You could just tell me she was angry. Or you could let me see her slam that door so hard a picture falls off the wall. Don't tell me he was nervous. Let me hear his foot tapping, see him unable to make eye contact. Showing pulls us out of our chair and drops us right into the scene. It's a total game changer. Now let's talk dialogue. This is a huge part of a story's muscle. And here's the ultimate test for every single line a character says. It has to do two jobs at once. That's right, two. It has to reveal something about their character, and it has to move the plot forward. If a line is only doing one of those things, or worse, neither, it's gotta go.
So how do you actually present that dialogue on the page? Well, Stephen King has some just brilliant advice here. He warns us against what he calls adverbial dandelions, words like graded, gasped, ejaculated. They just clutter up the page. He argues that a simple he said or she said is almost always better because it becomes invisible. The power isn't in the tag. The power is in the words your characters are actually saying. Okay, so you've got the skeleton, you've built up the muscle. But guess what? None of that matters if you don't have the discipline to actually put it all together. This final section is all about that daily workout, the practice that turns all this knowledge into a real, finished story. Let's just get this out in the open right now. Your first draft is not your final draft. It's probably not even close. As the legendary William Zinsser says, rewriting is everything. It's not just fixing typos. It's the whole game. It's the process where you discover what you actually wanted to say in the first place, and then you figure out how to say it perfectly. You have to remember, building a story is a marathon, not a sprint. The fantasy author Brandon Sanderson, who is just unbelievably prolific, talks about this all the time. When he was starting out, he decided his job wasn't to be an author, no. His job was to hit 1,000 words a day. That's it. That kind of daily, disciplined practice is what builds not just a book, but a career.
So when you do sit down for that rewrite, for that second draft, what are you even looking for? Stephen King gives us this incredible checklist. And notice something here? These questions aren't about commas and grammar. They're about meaning. What is this story about? The rewrite is where you find those recurring details, sharpen them, and create what he calls resonance, that deep feeling that stays with a reader long, long after they finish the last page.
You know, I think this quote from W.B. Yeats just perfectly wraps up this entire journey. The quarrel with others, that's the external conflict, right? That's the story's skeleton. But the quarrel with ourselves, that's the internal process of writing, of editing, of rewriting. That's where you find the theme. That's where you make poetry.
So there you have it. From the core desire that kicks off the whole journey, to the clean prose that makes the world feel real, all the way to the daily discipline that actually gets it done. That's the playbook. The blueprint is right here in your hands. The only real question left is, what story are you going to build?